Thank you. I'm David Merrill, president of USINDO, in case anyone doesn't know me yet. General Perkasa, Ibu Perkasa, USINDO co-chair, Ambassador Bob Blake, USINDO's board members, advisors, members, and supporters, former chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Ed Royce, and former Assistant Secretary of State for Educational and Cultural Affairs, Marie Royce, a USINDO board member. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for your support of and the interest you express in Indonesia and Indonesia programs. Guests from the U.S. administration, Congress, NGOs, think tanks, democracy organizations. We got you all together today. Guests from all of us in the U.S. interested in following Indonesian developments. Welcome to today's USINDO Special Open Forum Luncheon on the Indonesian elections, the fast approaching Indonesian elections. This is the first of three events in USINDO's 2024 Indonesian presidential election luncheon series. Our election series for 2024 is structured to inform us authoritatively about Indonesia's February 14th election and the key issues in play by hearing from senior representatives of the contending coalitions themselves who are designated by their coalitions to attend our election series. Based on our successful 2014 and 2019 series, USINDO's recognized neutral role, our election series provides each of the three competing coalitions an equal and balanced format to give our audience a window into their policies for Indonesia's and their visions for Indonesia's future. We are honored not only by the attendance of General Perkasa, but also that all three coalitions fielding candidates for president and vice president have appointed a senior spokesperson to present their views at the USINDO series. Only USINDO is in a position to pull off this kind of event. This is a unique opportunity for us to become directly and authoritatively informed about the election, its key implications for Indonesia, a country rising in importance steadily, but still too little understood in the United States. USINDO was formed to change that, and it is gradually changing. You could just look at Indonesia's growth rate of about 5% compared to the US of at a recent time about 1.5%. It shows Indonesia's strong interest in maintaining and deepening its relations with and understanding by the United States. We should note that. Today, we are honored to have as our speaker General Andika Perkasa, Deputy Chairman of the Coalition of Governor Ganjar Pranowo and Mahfud MD, also known as the National Winning Team. Good name. On Thursday, we will have Tom Lembang, Senior Advisor to the team of Governor Anies Baswedan and Muhammad Iskandar, also known as the Coalition of Change for Unity. On Friday, January 12th, our special breakfast guest speaker is Hashim Joyo Hadikusumo, Chairman of the Prabowo Gibran Volunteer Advisory Board and the campaign team of presidential candidate Lieutenant General Prabowo Subianto and Vice Presidential candidate Gibran Rakabuming Raka, also known as the Indonesia Forward Coalition. Now let's enjoy our lunch, after which Ambassador Blake will introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, David. And let me add my own very warm words of welcome to everybody here today to the Metropolitan Club and to this wonderful USINDO event, the first of our three election series events. I want to extend a particularly warm welcome to our guest of honor, General Perkasa. It's very nice to see you again, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. General, I'm sure you know, but at this time of year, all the think tanks think ahead to what are the big challenges of 2024. And I think one of the big consensus concerns around the world is the decline of democracy. And this year, more than half of the world is going to be going to the polls, particularly in big countries like India and Indonesia and the United States. And one of the countries that we all draw comfort in is Indonesia, because you do have a strong democracy, and your elections have in the last 20 years since 1998 have been very free and very open, and we have every confidence that we will see that again this year. So I think in that spirit, you see a lot of people around the room are here today because Indonesia really matters to the United States now. It matters politically, it matters as an important market, as an important partner, but also as a strategic partner now. As you know, our two presidents recently agreed to establish a strategic partnership of the highest order that we have, and that again reflects both the hope and optimism that we have about the future of relations between our two countries. And whoever gets elected, I'm sure that will continue. I just want to briefly introduce our speaker. I think most of you know him because he's so well regarded, but you might not know that he's actually got quite a strong connection to the United States. He, after doing the Army Command and Staff College in Indonesia, which is one of the most prestigious colleges there, he came here to Vermont under the sponsorship of the Ministry of Defense to Norwich University, Vermont, with 10 other military students. And so he spent 2 years here getting his master's. And then later he went on to pursue his PhD at George Washington University. So he spent 4 years here in Washington, D.C. So he knows all of our sins here in Washington, D.C. already very well. After that, he went on to a really storied military career in Indonesia. He served in the Special Forces in Kopassus, but was a well-known regional commander. He was head of the Presidential Security Command, which is, again, one of the most important and sensitive jobs that you can have in Indonesia. And then, of course, later on became Chief of Army Staff and then Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff finally. So he's had a remarkable military career and has been a true friend of the United States. One of the strongest areas of cooperation between our two countries is our military-to-military relationship. And again, General Perkasa has been a super strong friend of ours for so many years in all of the many jobs that he held. And of course, now he's the deputy chairman of Governor Ganjar Pranowo's campaign. So we are very, very honored and pleased to have him today. And I hope you'll all join me in welcoming him to the stage. General.
Pak Dave, Merrill, Pak Bob Blake, thank you for having me. And let me also say hi to Pak Ed Royce, Ibu Marie, Pak JJ Ong. We met last time I was here, September. And Ibu Irma, Pak Bob Gilbert, Mas Ade, Ibu Shai from State Department, and Pak Simon, Chapman Simon. I remember about a month ago, 4th of December, Pak Dave sent me a text. He wanted to talk to me on the phone. And then I think in the next couple of days, then we managed to find time to actually talk. And Pak Dave explained that he had sent out letter to Arshad. Arshad is my boss. He's the campaign team manager of Ganjar Mahfud. But so far, no response from him. That's, your words. And then, okay, send me the letter. And once Pak Dave sent me the letter, I forwarded to Pak Ganjar and Pak Mahfud. And in the next day or so, they came back to me. And they decided, okay, so we will send you back to Washington to speak, our point of view at USINDO. I'll do it, sir. So here I am today. So thank you so much for everyone's attending. It's an honor for me to be here and to be back again at USINDO. I used to go to USINDO when I was working on my PhD back in 2003 to 2008. I remember I met Mas Helmi from VOA a lot of times at that time at USINDO, just like this. So thank you so much for having me today. Um, just to make my presentation as short as possible, I'd like to cover three areas. I'm going to start with global landscape and then also explaining a little bit about Indonesia's modalities, and I'm going to close my presentation with vision and mission of Ganjar and Mahfud. We're talking about global landscape, and we should also talk about global economic landscape. Albeit the prices of a number of commodities have remained high over the past couple of years following the COVID and also the war in Ukraine. But I think they are set to normalize below last year's level due to weaker demand globally. However, it remains fragile because of the high borrowing costs, but also because of the persisting inflation, also because of the geopolitical woes, but also disappointing economic recovery in China. And all of these factors slow down the global demand on energy, metal, and food. Yet, I think because of the limited supply, global supply, add pressures to the global market on energy and food. And talking about pressures on global food market, among others, there are a number of factors actually playing in. First is the continuing El Nino, also some extreme weather conditions that have apparently reduced the moisture level in soil in most of the world. And that in the end have also lowered the production of crops around the world. And then other than that, also because of the elimination of the Black Sea grain deal by Russia, when Russia decided to destroy the most important port in the southern Ukraine, which in the end also reduced the food supply from Ukraine. In the energy, some factors that actually playing in adding the pressures to the global energy markets, among others, are the intensifying crude oil supply cut by member of OPEC, also because of the disruption of global gas supply due, among others, because of the labor strikes in Australia and also energy infrastructure's maintenance in Norway. And, in dealing with this global economic landscape, of course, Indonesia is heavily affected. But fortunately, we still survive because, the food, for instance, the food prices, we managed to pressure the inflation down to 2.8%. Now, so in dealing with those global landscape, actually Indonesia is doing a good job because in 2023, we are set to post 4.9% of economic growth. And in 2024, we also fortunate that we could post up to 5.2% of GDP growth. although it's not impossible that we would have 4.9% of economic growth. Now, when it comes to the investment in Indonesia, so far last year to 2023, from January to September, Indonesia received roughly 67 billion US dollar of investment, 35 billion of which came from foreign, and 32 billion of which came from domestic. But overall, in 2023, we're expecting to see investment coming into Indonesia up to 89 billion US dollar. And in 2024, the good news is it is projected to be more than that, could be up to 102 billion US dollar. But when you see that, the portion of China and Hong Kong combined compared to US, we still have a lot of rooms for improvement for investment to Indonesia. Now, talking about global landscape, we also have to talk about democracy, just like Bob Blake just stated. It's been declining according to some research. And those countries with declining democracy compared to those countries with improving, unfortunately, they're outnumbered. So meaning more and more countries now have experienced declining democracy, and the gap between the two, unfortunately, also getting bigger and bigger. Now, fortunately, Indonesia has a number of modalities, actually. First of all, we are the fourth largest populated country in the world. And in the next couple of years, we are seeing the potential of demographic bonus or demographic dividend. We are the 10th largest economy in terms of the purchasing power parity, with roughly 1.3 trillion US dollar of GDP. And in 2024, we have a projection of economic growth from 4.9% to 5.2%. Other modalities include the fact that we are the largest economy in Southeast Asia. Our GDP makes up 35% of the total GDP in Southeast Asia. And we are also the home of roughly 354 million cell phone users in Indonesia, 120% of our population. And 212 million of our population also the user of internet. So it means the internet penetration level in Indonesia has reached 77%. So a lot of potentials in Indonesia actually in this regard. And 167 million users of social media, 140 million of them are users of YouTube, 120 million users of Facebook, 110 million users of TikTok, 90 million users of Instagram, and then 24 million users of X or Twitter, and 23 million users of LinkedIn. When it comes to our natural resources, Indonesia actually holds the largest nickel reserves in the world, with an estimated of 21 million tons of nickel reserves, which also makes up 22% of global share in nickel reserves. But at the same time, in 2021, we also topped the metal production with 1 million tons of metals in 2021. Compared to, for instance, Australia. Australia has the second largest nickel reserve with an estimated of 20 million ton of nickel reserves. But Australia only produces 160,000 tons of metal every year. And also compared to like Brazil is the third largest holder of nickel reserves with roughly 16 million tons of nickel reserve, but produce metal only 100,000 tons every year. When it comes to automation, we also estimated to get between 4 million to 23 million net job gain from automation by 2030. And we are also the home of 120 million, or roughly 45% of the population in the consuming class. And it'll go up to 200 million in 2030, which is going to make up 75% of total population. Indonesia also the second largest venture capital investment in Southeast Asia. And from the carbonization, we are also estimated to rack 113 billion income by 2025, both from the carbon cap and trade and carbon cap and tax. Now, talking about global landscape, we also have to talk about democracy. Fortunately, Indonesia now is the third largest democracy in the world. And the top 3 democracy in the world also fortunately falls under the category of flawed democracy. This is based on the Economist Democracy Index. So still a lot of room for improvement, but good thing is we are already in that level. And then the freedomhouse.org also reports that Indonesia Democracy Index has been declining starting from 2017 until now. And one of the standout problems leading up to the 2024 election was the new ruling number 90 made by the Constitutional Court end of last year, which changed the ruling of law number 7, 2017. In that law number 7, it says that actually everyone's running for president and vice president, they should be 40 years and older. But then the Constitutional Courts made a new ruling, ruling number 90, in which it allows anyone running for president or vice president to be younger than 40 years old as long as she or he has been elected to lower office before. Now, I'm gonna close my presentation with Ganjar Pranowo's vision and mission. It's very simple actually, because Ganjar's vision is toward Indonesia excellent. And he comes up with 8 missions and 114 programs. The 8 missions, the only 8 missions that he's offering is, first one is accelerating the development of human resources. Number 2, accelerating the mastery of science and technology. And then the third one, accelerating the economic growth. And then number 4, actually accelerating the fair distribution of that economic growth throughout Indonesia. And number 5, accelerating the digitalization. Number 6, accelerating a sustainable environment. And number 7, accelerating the improvement of democracy, human rights, and supremacy of law. And the last one is accelerating Indonesia's more active role in fostering rules-based international order. And in doing those 8 missions and 114 programs, he has 3 priorities, which are to doubling the budget and eradicating corruption, and last but not least, improving bureaucracy and digitalization. So I'll stop here, everyone, Pak Dave and Pak Bob, and I'd like to hear more questions so that we could have more people in the debate. Thank you.
General Picasso, thank you so much for your insightful remarks. But now we're going to go to live questions and answers, which is often the best way to get deeper. I'd like to, the format we're going to use is I'd like to invite the people who have questions to line up behind this microphone and just go in the order that you line up. And General Picasso will take the questions one by one. Please.
General, it has been the historical practice in terms of choosing a cabinet to fill it more with politicians of supporting parties than it has been to bring in technocrats who can deliver better. And in my mind, if we look at what's happened at the Ministry of Health over the COVID experience, it's a great example of what happens when you bring in a technocrat. So going into COVID, Indonesia was an absolute disaster case. Budi Sadikin came in, a technocrat, and Indonesia came out of COVID doing far better than even the United States in terms of policies. So as you think about the type of cabinet and how you form a cabinet, how do you balance the need to have technocrats with dealing with the political realities?
Thank you, Pak Chapman. Once, I think about a month ago, we had a weekly meeting attended by four chairperson of four political parties supporting Ganjar and Mahfud. It was Ibu Megawati was there. It was Pak Mardiono from PPP. It was Pak Oso from Hanura, and also Pak Haritanu from Perindo, four political parties. In that meeting, I remember they discussed about cabinet. Although they didn't talk about specific names, but they all agreed that the next cabinet, if they won the presidency, has to be consist of best and brightest. Those people, the right man on the right place. So because they've learned a lot. Particularly Megawati, of course, she was once vice president, also once a president of Indonesia. So they had that commitment. That's what I heard. Hopefully, they would do it.
Sir, appreciate your introduction to your president, your presidential candidate. Sorry, I have two questions. One is about foreign investment. You talked about, you showed the slide that showed that China is in many ways the largest investor, especially because a lot of their investment also goes through Singapore, right? Do you see your candidate, if he gets elected, changing the foreign policy in ways to attract more Western investors, including from the United States? And secondly, I wanted to ask about the foreign policy. How would his Pak Ganjar's foreign policy differ, do you think? In many ways, President Jokowi seemed a little bit closer to China for investment reasons and other reasons than he was to the United States, despite what happened in November. So I'm just wondering if Pak Ganjar might have a different foreign policy emphasis. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Pak. First of all, Ganjar has, of course, mentioned that he's going to double the budget. And that is not easy. And the economic growth he's seeing has to be 7% at least. Imagine that is, to me, quite ambitious plan. 7% of economic growth. You know, even during SBY's time, it was 10 years. Back then, the economic growth was much better than the average of economic growth from this administration. Yet, it was around 6% at that time. So Ganjar has set a 7% economic growth as a target because we know that we're going to have that demographic dividend, demographic bonus. About 70% of our population will be in the working age a couple of years from now. I think about 10 years from now. So we have no choice unless we are able to provide jobs for our, working age, and then also encourage some creativity so that everyone also help out in creating jobs. Then it's going to be disasters, because having 70% of working age is it's a good thing, but also a bad thing. Good thing if we could really provide them with the job so they're more creative, productive, making more money, but also disaster if we cannot provide the job. So if you see the bottom right, improving bureaucracy, that's what we believe on. Because investment in Indonesia has been hindered by the attitude of bureaucracy, corruption. And we realize it. I mean, Pak Ganjar, Pak Mahfud have been talking about this a lot. So it's not impossible, and it's not difficult to us. I mean, improving bureaucracy, because we just have to show them, reward and punishment. You've got to do this, otherwise you have to leave or you get punishment. That's it. Because that's the most important things for investment to come in. As I mentioned, the investment of U.S. is very small. In fact, U.S. is when it comes to foreign direct investment, U.S. is the largest. I think about 33% of world or global investment comes from U.S. So the potential from U.S. actually very high, but unfortunately, because the investment environment in Indonesia not as good, compared to Singapore, for instance. So we don't get as much of investment. So that's about investment, and Ganjar is very serious about that, particularly because he wants to see a 7% economic growth for Indonesia. About foreign policy, of course, we talked. That was the topic, but during the third debate. So the third debate was about 2 days ago, and the topics covered were foreign policy, defense, security, globalization. And of course, I did brief him once before I leave for US, and talk about a number of things that I knew. And among others, we talk about South China Sea. And, during the third debate, he said it. He said that if he were elected as a president, he would restart the offshore oil drilling in the northern coast of Natuna. Something that has been stopped because I think it was a complaint to Indonesian government that area, although it's EEZ, it's really, we couldn't proceed. Something like that. So that's what Ganjar had said during the third debate. So it means Ganjar would have not exactly the same as the current administration has, but I would say he has a, a deeper understanding as to how to deal with the policies, particularly in the case of South China Sea.
General, thank you for the time. My name is Susie Hayworth. I'm with the UC Davis Alumni Association in Indonesia in Washington, D.C. We currently have about 3,000 Indonesian alumni in Indonesia, and currently we have about 110 students studying in UC Davis. My question is about on the education side, because I believe that education is one of very important component of nation building. If your candidate will be winning, what are your policy and plans to give access to higher educations, especially for the Indonesian who has economic disadvantage? as well as gender equality for education in Indonesia? That's my first question. Second question, we have a lot of, I can only speak for UC Davis, we have a lot of exchange students and faculty exchange, as well as research collaborations. And your candidate, if he wins, will she have a plan to increase more of the collaboration and education with the university in the US, as well as research and exchange student and faculty? Thank you.
Ibu Suzy, we did discuss that before we came up with the final version of vision and mission, because by the time every candidates sign up to the election commission, we had to have the clear vision and mission draft. Fortunately, Ganjar was in Central Java for 10 years. And Central Java is the poorest province in Java, not in Indonesia. But in Java, Central Java is the poorest, meaning it's harder for Central Java actually to improve the income per capita, for instance, because perhaps the lack of opportunities in Central Java, unlike East Java and West Java. So over there, he managed to improve. Remember that in Indonesia right now, thank you, Jim. Remember in Indonesia, average Indonesian only gets to go to school until 9 years. So average Indonesian would not even graduate from high school right now. So his ambition is the next 5 years. He wants every Indonesian to graduate from high school. So only from high school. And even to do that, because of the geographical challenges in Indonesia, and we have to combine, and that's what we debated at that time. Because I said, if we have to build a physical building or school building in every village, it's going to be impossible in 5 years to complete it in 5 years. Meanwhile, we have to also deliver our promise. We cannot just promise during the campaign season and not to deliver it. So we agreed that it has to be a combination of physical school building and physical teachers, but at the same time with also technology, distance learning helped by AI, for instance, so that, even those areas with no school buildings and no teacher could still learn, could still go to school as long as they have internet coverage, internet connection. That's the most important thing. So for Ganjar, because he used to grow up, in a very modest family. His father was also a police officer, but low rank. And in one of his programs, the program of 114, he wants every poor family has one kid that graduate from university. That is his program. Of course, the budget is going to be taken from the state budget. But his ambition when it comes to education is very serious, because I think he was from that family, the kind of family that didn't have the luxury of going to schools wherever they wanted. And he understands that the challenges in Indonesia also very difficult to overcome. And therefore, fortunately, time is perfect because of the AI development like ChatGPT. We can always ask, a lot of things just from the cell phone. So it would make his program possible when it comes to improving education. Of course, working with other universities, for instance, it's very, it's very interesting, because on the third debate, he also said that he would use the LPDP program. LPDP program is like scholarship program. provided by the government and for everyone, but so far, perhaps there's no specific targets. But in this case, he planned to actually target students from, much less fortunate families to actually get LPDP, so that everyone would get the same level of playing field.
General, one of the things that you laid out was the focus on liberalizing the economy and how that would create additional investment, and especially also in terms of rule of law, how enforcement would guarantee that considerable investment comes in. And that, of course, creates economic growth, jobs, real opportunities. One of the other areas where Indonesia really has, sort of like the United States, a unique situation is the biodiversity in the national parks that exist across Indonesia. We in the United States are fortunate that Teddy Roosevelt set that system up, but enforcement becomes an issue. And to that question of enforcement, what can be done to stop poaching and the types of activities that would denigrate the biodiversity in what is really an asset to pull people from Europe and Asia and all over the world to come to Indonesia and to see that? What steps can be taken there, and are those part of the platform?
Thank you, Pat. We have three candidates of president and vice presidents. And among all three of them, fortunately, I think Ganjar and Mahfud is the only combination that would likely to deliver when it comes to enforcing the law. Why? Mahfud himself, I think, people call him like a hero when it comes to enforcing the law, because he has proven that his integrity is very much proven when it comes to enforcing the law. Because once he was also the Chief Justice at the Constitutional Court, and nothing happened during his leadership at that time. So the reason why Ganjar is so optimistic in projecting 7% economic growth, because we know the potentials are there. And we know what's lacking right now, because we don't get as much investment as we wanted. Also because the lack of law enforcement, the instability or legal uncertainties, I would say, and of course corruption by the bureaucrats. And those things are the area Ganjar and Mahfud are very confident they could change. So that's first of all, Ed. And second of all, biodiversity also goes back to law enforcement. Because actually the key is law enforcement, and we're not good at it right now. And we're confident when we start enforcing the law and making everyone accountable. I mean, bureaucrats who are running the giving the permission, the permits, issuing the permits, or doing anything just to help out, providing very conducive business environment, then we are confident everything would follow suit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had I had one comment and one question, if you'd permit me, General. You showed a slide about investment, and a lot of it coming from Singapore. A lot of that actually is American investment, because American companies base themselves in Singapore because they don't have as much confidence yet in the legal system in Indonesia. And if there were an investment dispute of some sort, they want to be sure that there's a real fair arbitration procedure, which they would get in Singapore, but they're not so confident about in Indonesia. So I wanted to urge that one of the things that you and Pa Ganjar think about also is, as you've just been talking about, the strengthening of the independence of the overall legal system, because I think that would do a lot to encourage more investment, particularly from the United States, but also from the European Union and other things. My question was about, I wanted to follow up on Murray's question about China. I was very happy to hear you say, and happy to hear Ganjar talk about how he will increase oil and gas investment in the Tuning, which I think is an important and strong signal to China. The other question that people worry about is that increasingly now we see a more aggressive stance by China in the South China Sea. The Philippines has experienced that directly, but you yourself in Indonesia are seeing more, for example, Chinese Coast Guard ships coming in and intervening in when Indonesian police try to arrest illegal Chinese fishing vessels. We're seeing more Chinese submarines now in Indonesian waters, mostly undetected or at least not without permission. So I was wondering, and there are some people here in the United States who worry that over time, this could begin to affect international shipping. And of course, the international shipping lanes that come through your waters are among the most important in the world. So it is important to send a strong signal to China about the protection of these sea lanes and more broadly about how, you don't want to see more Chinese intervention in Indonesian waters. And I just wondered how Ganjar is thinking about that in Chinese military relations and, sending another signal just as you've done on the economic side. Thank you.
Thank you, Papa. Thank you for sharing with us that most of the Singaporean investment actually come from the U.S. I heard about it, but I was not sure. So yes, I think.
You've done a very good study about that.
Okay, yeah. Well, at least that's good news because that's what I thought. U.S. with the share of foreign investment it could do all the way up to 33% globally. Why only putting that much of investment in Indonesia? That's good. And we are confident that once we fix, our homework, our bureaucracies, our legal system, I'm sure we would be able to invite more investment coming into Indonesia. When it comes to our foreign policy, of course, it was on the third debate, it was a debate about South China Sea. And I think Ganjar was the only one who talked about the fact that he wanted to start the offshore drilling that apparently was stopped a while ago because of the complaint of the Chinese government. It means, I think we would not even talk about, South China Sea unless we get settled down. We get to settle down the differences between Indonesia and China when it comes to our EEZ overlap claim. For them, it's part of the South China Sea, but for us, based on UNCLOS, UN Convention on Law of the Sea, 82, it's part of our EEZ. So I think he's very clear about that. He's the only one. Although when it comes to working with ASEAN, I think he didn't mention anything about that, but I think his standpoint is pretty much clear to me. That comes first, because no matter what, he's gonna start it. Meaning, he would assume that this area or EZZ is our right, our sovereign right, based on UNCLOS 82.
Thank you very much for your remarks, General. I hope you will help us by telling us how you would draw a distinction between what an Indonesia would look like under a Ganjar administration compared to either an Anis administration or a Prabowo administration.
Okay. Yeah, I think from the start, on his side, I think he's been promoting changes, meaning perhaps a lot of policies would be very different than what we are seeing today. Prabowo, of course, and Gibran, of course, will continue to promote the policies or standpoint of the current administration. Now, it was also part of our discussion in a weekly meeting, what we should take, where's our stand? Because if we try to continue only, then, there's no difference between Prabowo and Ganjar. But at the same time, we're not a candidate who from the beginning promote changes. So the difference that Ganjar administration would offer is that we gonna be quicker. That's why we always come up with a slang that shows actually move fast. In Indonesian, we call it satsat. Satsat means just very quick. So that's the difference. Because fortunately, Ganjar is the only one who has the experience of leading executive for 10 years, and that matters a lot. It wouldn't take long for him and Pak Mahfud actually to learn and run the government. Unlike Anies also has 5 years of experience as a governor, and that also would help. But Prabowo and Gibran don't have that experience. So I would say if Ganjar thinks that he would move faster, quicker in making things happen, I think that's the difference. Pretty much, we continue whatever's good from the current administration, but with different speed. Let's say, the declining democracy, the corruption level, and the fact that the law enforcement has not been great, for instance. That's some areas that I think Ganjar would try to look different.
Thank you, General Perkasa, for these deep remarks. You've given us a good impression not only of your coalition and your party, but of you yourself. And we're deeply indebted to you for traveling all this way for the cause of helping Indonesia, as well as your coalition being better understood in the United States. We hope to see more of you at USINDO and more of you in Indonesia. Let's give him a great hand. Just a couple of announcements. Please note that our next program in the trilogy, if you will be Thursday in this room with Tom Lembong of the Aeneas Baswedan Coalition. And Friday morning will be a breakfast meeting with Pak Hashim Joyo Kusumo of the Prabowo Coalition. Everyone here is cordially invited to both of those. If you haven't signed up, you can try to sign up. It's near capacity, but not completely there. Thank you all and good afternoon.